As we start off, just like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands where we gather across Queensland, particularly, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important roles that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples play in relation to the land, sky and waterways that are used for outdoor activities. I'm coming to you from our office in Brisbane, or Meanjin, on Yagara country, which is a place of the Jagera and Turrbal peoples. So welcome. I'd also acknowledge the funding that's provided by the Queensland Government, which supports outdoor activities across the state, including the funding that allows Outdoors Queensland to do our work. And we acknowledge the work that's quite a few different government departments and the ministers do in relation to outdoor activities, which includes sport and rec within the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. Welcome to the second episode of Coffee and Conversation for 2023. My name's Dom Courtney. I'm the Executive Officer at Outdoors Queensland. Mark Squires, our Operations Manager, is the co-host today again. Thanks again, Mark, for all your hard work. Welcome everyone to joining us. Really happy to have you on board again, whether you're joining us for the first time or you're one of the diehards who've barely missed a session. Welcome. As I said before, recordings of these sessions are available on our website and on YouTube, and feel free to make comments and ask questions as we go along. It is a conversation as well as the important coffee part of it. So a little bit of an agenda there, a lot about opportunities, but we'll also discuss a little bit about the COVID world. If you want to add anything to the agenda, even different items, please speak up, things that you might be aware of that I haven't included today. Happy to go there too. If you want to suggest any topics for a future session, just contact Mark or myself. Really happy to hear any suggestions. We might get into the COVID stuff first and then move on to all the other things that are going on. And it's, you know, from the outside at least, or from looking down from above, I suppose, it seems that the COVID situation has settled down a lot. If anyone has other feelings on this, but you know, the public health emergency officially ended in Queensland last year, but Queensland Health has introduced that traffic light system, which is all about understanding current level of risk. And the setting's currently green. It was green at our last meeting. I just looked at the website this morning. It was reviewed yesterday. So, and that green setting means there's low rates of community transmission, and Queensland isn't in a COVID-19 wave. But green doesn't mean COVID's all over, and they're still recommending the standard preventative protocols. Just saw your note there, Bill. Yes, I've got a note in the agenda about opportunities associated with Olympics and Paralympics and the legacy from that as well. So yes, that's on the agenda. So yeah, and so none of this has changed in relation to COVID protocols. It's all the same information, but the key messaging is still, you know, if you're sick, stay home and get tested. And I've also checked the Education Queensland, the rules for state schools about attending camps and excursions. It hasn't changed since our previous Coffee and Conversation session. The website was last updated on the 17th of January, which is good news. This time last year, it was a slightly different situation, as anyone in the outdoor education space could tell you. It was all sorts of shenanigans this time last year, but yeah, let's touch wood. Things are looking okay at the moment, and they haven't made any changes to that website. So any comments, questions on the wonderful world of COVID? I think we're coming up on 3 years of this discussion point. I'd like to not have to talk about it one day.
I think we'd all forgotten how busy February is.
Yes, I had someone the other day tell me that it's just like ridiculous from a school camp point of view, but I was talking to a group of tourism operators yesterday, and they were saying they were talking about the final quarter of last year. I think it was the Caravanning Association said their bookings for the last quarter last year far exceeded the same quarter in 2019, so before COVID, and it's quite amazing some of the changes that have happened over time. So yeah, but yeah, it's good to see busyness is back in the business. So yeah. So that's about it from COVID as far as I'm concerned for today. But if anyone has anything else, just feel free to chime in. A few announcements. The Outdoors Queensland annual general meeting is going to be on the 15th of March. It's going to be face-to-face here at Sports House Milton, but also online via Zoom from 6 o'clock. We'll also have a forum beforehand, as it's so really keen to have as many people join as possible. And I guess I said this last year too when we're talking about the AGM, that Outdoors Queensland isn't my organisation or the board's organisation. It's, the members are part owners of Outdoors Queensland, and the AGM is an opportunity for the owners to have their say. And it's a meeting of the members, and it can't go ahead if we don't have enough members, and it's an important part of our governance. So there will be an election of directors and a possible election of life member as well to be confirmed. So members will have received a bulletin with all the details, links with all the forms that you need to fill out to RSVP. And there's a notification and covenant form, as it says on the screen there. That's really important. Every year under our constitution, members have to update that information so that we've got the current person who is the authorised representative. So you need to fill that out before the AGM, and you submit proxies if you can't attend. You can do that as well, and you do that up to the day before the AGM. So yeah, but yeah, it is an important thing, as well as appointing the board for the next year, and who set the strategic direction for the organisation. It's also about hearing what's happened in the past and what we're looking to do for the next for the future. So yeah, good opportunity for a review of what's going on with the organisation in a formal setting. Thanks, Mark, for sharing some links there too. Just on some funding opportunities, the Gambling Community Benefit Fund, it's open right now. So I think they call it their super round. It's $100,000 round right now. So they distribute about $60 million each year for non-profit community groups. And it's particularly focused on helping groups provide services, leisure activities, and opportunities for communities. It's pretty, just like from their website, it's a pretty wide variety of items that you can apply for funding for. So community events, training, equipment, facility improvements, machinery, printing, publications, marketing, solar panels, vehicles and boats, and workshops and conferences are all on their list of eligible expenditure. So it's worth having a look at. There's 4 rounds available. This is the super round for the year, so it closes 28th of Feb. And there's 3 other rounds where it's maximum of $35,000 funding. If you want Outdoors Queensland to act as a referee for your application, we're happy to do that for members, but they also recommend contacting MPs and getting a reference from them as well. So, and also I think local government. So it's worth having a look at that. Don't leave it to the last minute would be my suggestion. We've actually applied for the previous round in late last year. We haven't announced the recipients of that one yet, but it is a bit involved in an application, but it's not too much, but it certainly is a little bit involved, and you need to line up quotes, etc. All right. I just wanted to flag Sport and Rec funding from the Queensland government. There's a heap of funding available right now, but pleasingly, the image they've got on their website when they're talking about these the funding rounds is that picture of a couple of people abseiling at Kangaroo Point. So it's nice to see they're actually actively putting it out there that it is sport and recreation funding. They've got funding called Active Clubs, which is open right now. I think it's up to $2,500 for clubs for funding to support volunteers and provide physical activity opportunities to increase participation. So that one's open. They have a minor infrastructure program, which is just opened, I think, this week, and applications close 2nd of March. That one's funding for, well, as it says, minor infrastructure, about enhancing participation opportunities through provision of spaces. So they also have their Fair Play vouchers open now, which is for vouchers up to $150 for children, which can be used towards membership registration and other fees, with registered activity provider. So if you want to become a registered activity provider, you can log in through their portal as well on there. I know that the Girl Guides and Scouts are already on there, but other outdoor organisations can do that as well. And then they have an emerging athletes program, which is probably not as relevant to our world. It's more about supporting young athletes, coaches and officials with financial assistance to attend state, national, international events. And they've got a new one that's opening up in April, and we might get someone to come and speak on this one if we can. They've got a First Nations Sport and Recreation program, which is about providing physical activity opportunities for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples throughout Queensland. And that one's going to open up, I think, in April 2023. So just wanted to flag that one. So Sport and Rec have got a lot going on. It's all on their website, and Mark's just shared the link there. But you do need to check eligibility and the other conditions on there. Any questions, comments? It's probably just an information dump at this point, but just wanted to let you know. The year of accessible tourism, I talked about this a couple of times, but I just wanted to flag that the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport, they've actually just released an accessible tourism toolkit, which has a range of resources that are available online. And they're developed by Get Skilled Access and Travability. So Get Skilled Access is the enterprise founded by Dylan Alcott, who was the former Australian of the Year, and also Travability are a specialist travel agency who cater for travellers with disability. So these resources, they look really, I haven't had a great look at them, but they seem to be pretty comprehensive and detailed. They've got guidelines, templates and a checklist and 5 online learning modules to support the tourism industry to become more accessible. But I think it could be applied to any organisation, not just tourist operators. So I think it's worth having a look at, even if you're not a tourism operator, and they seem really good. So Mark's just shared the link to those as well. There's certainly a lot of information there, but I think it's something that's worth understanding better for your organisation. Another opportunity that I mentioned this one last time, it's a free webinar on the 23rd of February regarding women's leadership on boards. So it's not just about women joining boards, but it's about women taking on roles like the chair of the board, and understanding whether that's right for you and what help's available. So I think it's worth knowing that it's there. It's a free webinar, and feel free to pass it on to someone else who might benefit from it as well. So I want to flag that. Training and development from Savannah Guides as well. They've got a couple of field schools coming up. One of them's on the Savannah Lander train, which departs from Cairns on the 14th of March. So, and then the other one is in October at Carnarvon Gorge. So the field schools, they're about helping guides maintain a high level of professionalism, particularly in the tourism space. Really good efforts. I attended one back in 2017 up at Forsyth and Cobble Gorge in North Queensland. It was really good. So highly recommend that if you get a chance, if it's in your space. This one, happy to have a bit of a conversation on this one. The domestic commercial vessels, we actually sent out a special bulletin this week seeking feedback from industry, from anyone who uses vessels in a commercial manner. If you didn't receive that bulletin and you want a copy of it, please let us know. I think we sent it yesterday, Mark. Is that correct? Yesterday morning? Yeah. Let us know. There is a news story on our website about it as well. But what it is all about is the government, Australian government's conducting a review of domestic commercial vessel safety legislation. And as it says, and costs and charging arrangements for those vessels. So at the moment, under the federal rules, kayaks and canoes are included as vessels alongside fishing trawlers and ferries. I saw Bill's face then, as someone who knows a little bit about the federal system. Yeah, and it actually affects you if you use canoes or kayaks at an outdoor centre, a tourism business, or any other business. Even if you have a free floating pontoon in a dam or pond, if you teach kayaking or sailing, or even if your club budget depends on hire fees from non-members. because if they have an exemption for community organisations, if you only hire gear out to your members, they say that's not commercial. But if you're hiring it out to anyone who's not a member of your club, that's commercial use of a vessel. So at the moment, so Outdoors New South Wales ran an entire online session just on this topic last week. And their recording of that session's online. Mark's actually put a link to it in that bulletin that we sent out yesterday. This process that they're going through is an opportunity to avoid the ridiculousness. And we've already made a submission to the review, and so did other peak body organisations like Paddle Australia and the Outdoor Council of Australia, and other state and national peak bodies. But we only found out about this 2 days before the thing closed, the submissions closed. So we didn't get a chance to get out to the industry and get full, intel. So what we've said to the review is we need more time to give you a proper submission. We basically gave them a submission saying this is ridiculous and we need more time. They've given us more time. They've given us an opportunity to meet with the panel directly, which is great. But to really inform that, we really need input from operators across Australia. There's an online survey that Outdoors New South Wales and ACT have set up. The link's at the bottom of the screen there. Mark's just shared it in the chat. That feedback we'll then provide to the review panel when I say we, the Outdoor Council of Australia is going to do that. And I happen to be the president of the Outdoor Council of Australia. So when I keep saying we, I've got two hats on at the minute. But the key thing is, please fill out the survey if you've got any vessels and want to have your say. This is something that's in 2018, it came up and we mobilised the forces pretty quickly. We had stories in the Australian newspaper and the Courier Mail and the other large papers. We actually ended up having, through some political contacts, contact was made with the then Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, who is a very keen kayaker, I understand. So he actually got involved in this back then in 2018. We had a letter from the Deputy Prime Minister, who was the Transport Minister at the time, clearly stating that levies will not be applied on kayaks, on human-powered craft, it said. And now, but it did say in that same letter that there'll also be another review in the future, and this is that review. So we need to get on top of it. We need to be able to provide information to this review to show why it is so ridiculous to treat a kayak in the same way as a fishing trawler or a ferry. So that's my ask of you, which that little mustachioed man is asking of you, is fill in the survey, give us the information so we can take that to the panel. And it's not just me making stuff up, it's me saying this is what industry's telling us. So we want as much information as possible. It's all just an online survey. It's not huge detail, but if you have a look at it, it is important. So yeah, Bill, you're on mute, mate.
Rowing clubs and a rowing boat is not included, but they talk about boats, kayaks, and canoes, right? So I assume, and I've just been trying to follow the links, right? Mm-hmm. Rowing clubs do a lot of their fundraising by doing,
come and try. Yep.
No, they'll do corporate rowing. So companies will, put people out into eights and they pay a silly amount of money for 5 or 8 weeks, and then they have a race over 500 meters and, whatever. Because they're using that for raising money, they would be caught by this, would they not?
I suspect so, unless they have a little bit of sneakiness, which they might do, where they might, as part of that process, they might include those people as associate members of something of the club, which then covers them under their insurance. Mm. If they did that, they're members, and say they wouldn't get caught by it. But if they're hiring out a boat to Joe Public, which I don't think they do because their boats are probably worth more than a lot of kayaks, etc. If they're hiring it out just for a group to use, they're definitely operating commercially if they're not members. So yeah, that's one of the things on this. It covers, sorry, yep.
Sorry, sorry to cut you off. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So it also covers the situation where, like, if a school has a fleet of boats, that's not considered commercial, even if they're a private school that has a fleet of rowboats that row on the river, you know, as they do right now. But if they hire those boats out, that's a grey area. If the other one is, so for an organisation like Scouts, if they hire out a venue that has vessels, and as Mark said, it includes a freestanding pontoon in a dam or pond. So it doesn't include a pontoon that's connected by a walkway to the shore for some reason, but a freestanding one counts in the definition of a vessel. It's quite weird, a lot of this stuff, like seriously. So that's why we're trying to get ahead of it and say, no, this should not include human-powered vessels. The other one that is actually important on this, which some organisations will have them, is even a tinny, a safety vessel. If you're under the AMSA regulations, if it's considered a domestic commercial vessel, it's increased engineering in relation to the flotation that's required from the tinny, and that's under review. So at the moment, there's different standards for depending on whether it's a recreational tinny or a commercial tinny. If it's a commercial one, if it springs a leak and it's going to sink, it has to sink. They call it, I think it's called horizontal flotation or something. So it has to stay buoyant in the horizontal fashion. And so it's a whole lot more expensive to get a tinny that does that as opposed to a tinny that just stays floating, whether it's upside down. So there's a lot involved in this. I'm not saying you need to read the 70-page report. It's good if you get a chance to read the bit of it, but fill out the survey, but also share it with other people that you think might get caught by this, that if they haven't, we've sent it to as many people as we think it's relevant to. We haven't sent it to our whole network because we know there's, it's probably not relevant to a bushwalking club, etc. But we've tried to get this out there and say, fill this survey out. We need the intel. So
second question, and it's quite important. I haven't had a chance to read the report, but are they proposing that this be done by regulation or by act of parliament? Because they're two completely different processes.
It already is by regulation. So it's under the AMSA.
They'd be amending the regulation.
They're proposing, sorry, at the moment under the AMSA regulation, this is in, but they're saying we're reviewing it and this might be a chance to not do it. So it was in, but they didn't charge any fees for it. So there is under right now, if you talk to AMSA, technically, you should have a certificate of operation if you have any domestic commercial vessels. And in that definition, domestic commercial vessel is basically canoes and kayaks. It's in their regulation. So what they haven't done is they haven't enforced it. So so what we're saying is, okay, remove us from the definition to start with, but also don't be thinking, even if you leave us in, you should be charging us a fee for every single vessel. It just doesn't make sense. Even if you go to a purely commercial point of view, how could you charge a fee for a trawler, one boat, and a kayak, one boat? Like, it doesn't make sense. So if we can, purely explain that.
Can I just say here, look, I've got some experience on this because if it's a regulation, it doesn't have to pass both houses of parliament. So what happens is they table the regulation, it automatically comes into effect unless it's disallowed by either house within 15 sitting days. Now, the House of Representatives has never disallowed a regulation. The Senate does it on the recommendation of what used to be called the Regulations and Ordinances Committee. It's now called the Subordinate Legislation Committee. That's a non-partisan committee, which is really important because, but it's not on, its remit is not, a beauty parade where you go and make some arguments. We think it's unfair. It's got fairly narrow terms of reference, right?
I've never been invited to a beauty parade, Bill, so I wouldn't know the difference on that one.
Yeah. But look, I'm happy to have a look at the technicalities, because what you've got to be aware of is if they do it by regulation, as soon as the regulation is made, it takes effect, and there's no more consultation, and it's they don't have to get a positive vote. You actually have to get a majority of senators to disallow the reg.
Disallow, right? Okay.
So it's not like, you get first reading, second reading, committee stage, and then third reading, and then royal assent. It just goes straight through. So you could be in for a very quick hatchet job unless you're right on top of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, but just to say, their report, which again, I've literally printed it out and haven't had a chance to read the whole 72 pages. I think they're actually amenable to avoiding this problem. I don't know if they realise the scope of the problem, but I think they're amenable to trying to avoid it. But that's why they've allowed us extra time to tell them what that problem is. And they've been quite good as far as it's an independent panel. So this isn't being done by AMSA as well. I should have said that. It's being done by the Department of Infrastructure, Transport and other stuff. I don't know about the rest of it, but the transport part of it's the important bit. And they have an independent panel that's doing this review. And we've actually had a face-to-face and phone conversations with the people within the department, but also the panel has said we're happy to meet with Outdoors Queensland, Outdoor Council Australia and Paddle Australia to understand it better. So I don't think they're trying to do a hatchet job, but I think we need to make sure we get enough information to really inform this position. But yeah, thanks, Bill. I mean, your experience in this space would be really valuable. So
let's have a chat about it after.
That'd be great. Yeah, it'd be really good. Yeah, thanks.
How much are they proposing in terms of a license fee per vessel?
There's
Because
no
we've
numbers.
got between our canoes and our fleet of sea kayaks, we've got 75 or something.
Yeah. So I spoke to a tourism operator who has 230, mostly sit-on cops. And this is where it's weird. There's some confusion on whether a sit-on top is considered a kayak or a surf ski. If it's a surf ski, it's excluded. If it's a kayak, it's included. It doesn't make sense. So they don't have any numbers. Back in 2018, they were talking about numbers and it was a lot and it was ridiculous, mate. Like to the point of, that's actually a question in the survey that says, basically, would you still do this activity if you had to pay a fee per vessel? And it's a stupid, sorry, that's my personal opinion.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
There are fees already set out, and you can find them on the AMSA website. You can avoid fees by developing a certificate operation, which means you include a list of your vessels. They all need to be registered and numbered, but you don't have to pay a fee per vessel if you've got a certificate operation. That's one of the wrinkles. And that certificate costs obviously something, and you need to be weighing up numbers of vessels and individual cost against the cost of the certificate. And the other interesting thing too is that for some reason rafts or inflated rafts are not included at all. They're not covered. They're not considered DCVs. As you say, sit-on tops, there's some confusion. I don't think anybody even considered a sit-on top within AMSA or within the department when they were putting this together. And so I was also wondering just a minute ago, what happens with inflatable kayaks?
I've had someone else ask me that question. Yeah.
Is it a kayak? Is it an inflatable? Is it a, blah, blah, blah.
And this is partly technology moving on. So that certificate of operation that Mark talked about, it's something like $205, $206 for 4 or 5 years. Like it's not a huge amount of money, but it also comes with, as Mark said, you have to number each one of your vessels. It's not like the fishing regulations. It could just be, you could name them QCC 1, 2, 3, etc., somewhere on the vessel. And the other thing you have to do is submit to AMSA a safety management system on how you're going to operate your vessels.
Like 40 canoes on a 2-acre canoe lake at Mapleton. And we have to do this, like, seriously.
This is what I'm saying, mate. This is exactly what I'm saying. So fill out the survey, share it with other people who you think should be filling out the survey, and we'll go into bat for the industry to try to avoid exactly you shaking your head, mate, like that. So
what about stand-up paddle boards? Because a lot of operators are using those.
specifically excluded. It doesn't include stand-up
Okay.
paddleboards, doesn't include surfboards. As Mark said, it doesn't include inflatable rafts. There's a couple other things that they're still covered under the Queensland Maritime Safety. So Maritime Safety Queensland, they're covered under that sort of stuff, but they're not covered by this AMSA, by the national system for vessels. But it needs to be sorted. I'll just put it that way. So I'm going back to my mustachioed friend on the screen. We need you to fill out that survey and share it with other people, and we need as many people as possible completing it. So yeah, it's open until the end of the month, 28th of Feb. Then we'll collate the information, and then we've got we're trying to line up this hearing or discussion with the panel for March. So yep, they are still doing some community consultation sessions, but apparently they did them in Queensland last year, which is interesting. We didn't even know about it. They didn't contact us, they didn't contact Paddle Australia, and I think it does show that they're not intending this thing to be about regulation of paddling. But they didn't contact Paddle in Queensland either, I should say. So I've spoken to them about this, but they're more focused on, you know, what you would think of when you think about a commercial vessel. But we're getting, as I said yesterday, when I was talking about someone else with this, I feel like the kayaks and the canoes are getting caught in the wake of the fishing trawlers and the ferries. So that's my fear. And I think we need to make sure we have smooth sailing, so to speak. Other questions, comments on this one? Thanks, Dave. I'm glad someone appreciates my punning. All right. Yeah, I'll remind you of the survey later in the month as well. Moving on to the topic Bill mentioned earlier, the Brisbane 2032 Legacy Olympic and Paralympic Games Legacy Survey. It's open right now. The survey responses are going to be used to inform their legacy forum that's held in March and help deliver the Brisbane 2032 legacy plan. And that legacy plan is all about benefits to society now and into the future from Brisbane 2032. And, you know, quite openly, I think we should try to shape it and be part of changing what's happening right now into what should be happening for the future. I've actually done the survey, encourage others who are interested to complete it. It's worth doing. There's some good questions in there. They're obviously trying to dig a little bit deeper into what people want as a legacy. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, so I've actually been invited to attend the legacy forum. It says, I don't know if you can see it in the fine print there, it says in there that it's 500 business and community leaders and sports stars and others attending the forum. So I think I've been invited to represent Outdoors Queensland as a community leader, but a little tiny part of me thought maybe I got invited as a sports star due to my days as a hulking front rower for the Maroochydore Swans in the rugby union on the coast. But I think I'm going to represent Outdoors Queensland. So so you'll have my voice there, but that's one voice in 500. So I think the most important thing to say is please fill out the survey. There is an opportunity when you fill out the survey to say, yes, I'd like to attend, and they're going to invite a certain number of people who do the survey to attend as community members as well. So really want to flag that one. Bill, you mentioned the Olympics and Paralympics earlier. Did you want to?
Yeah. Look, in addition to this, various sports bodies have money which has been allocated to them for the lead up to the Olympics. So, for example, I am told, and I'm not sure this number is correct, that there's up to $80 million going to Rowing Australia.
Wow.
Right? Now, that has big implications for various places, even if they are not the final Olympic venue, and there is no guarantee that Wyaralong will be the final Olympic venue. It may well be the dam at Petrie, right? But it's also for training facilities, because all these international teams will be coming. So if you are involved in an outdoor sport, which is Olympic, like cycling or canoeing, you know, or rowing or sailing, there is money there that I understand is flowing down from the AOC to the national sporting bodies. And if that, you know, say you're working with kayaks or whatever, that might relate to funding for venues or facilities or training stuff. So that's also relevant. I've also just popped in something, an article I just wrote for an online rowing magazine where I'm touting just over the border, actually, at Terra Nora, that being a possible Olympic training venue.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so there's a sort of interrelationship, but there's a lot of interest now. All of the international bodies and all of the national sporting bodies around the world are now looking for training venues over the next 9 years. And they're looking really hard now. And the reason I'm saying this is, you know, just go away and think about your local area or what you're doing or whatever, if it can somehow become a training base for these organizations.
Yeah, great, Bill. And I mean, that's one that I know they're going to be looking at. Even the same thing, mountain biking. I think the venue,
Yes.
the Olympic venue, is going to be at Parklands on the Sunshine Coast. So I would imagine there would be opportunities for training camps to be held somewhere nearby, and even if they just bus to the venue once it's open and up and running. I don't know how that's going to work, but yeah, I think there is going to be opportunities in that space for accommodation providers, and also particularly if you're close by to one of those venues.
Well, Olympic venues must be open for competition. I think it's 2 years before the event is the rule. And there is a final, about 12 months before the event, there is a sort of a certification race or something on that venue. But training facilities might not be the actual Olympic venue. Yep. So there might be other training facilities for mountain biking in South Queensland, because these guys are coming for acclimatization and all that other stuff. So,
yep, terrific. Thanks, Bill. That's a good point, and it's something to look out for as an opportunity, and also a business opportunity, but an opportunity also to host a team from overseas and, you know, build some of those relationships. So in that,
if you've got accommodation facilities as part of whatever your outdoor business is, and you are close to a competition venue or training venue, then you can pitch yourself, you know, for accommodation for visiting Olympic teams.
A lot of us have already signed accommodation guarantees for the Olympics themselves. That was before the games are granted, because they had to secure a number of rooms. So ours are very convenient because we've got a lot of rooms.
Yep. So you count up for the numbers, yeah. But I guess that's the other one.
Can I just add, Dom? I think this is worth getting behind, actually. That the Brisbane trail running community is making a push for ultra trail to be the sport added. I know there's a push for netball, but it's not very widespreadly played around the world. So we'd love to host an ultra marathon for the Olympics on the Blackall 100 course.
Wow, that would be awesome.
Cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Can you send me through some more information about that, mate? If there's any.
Look, they were at the Blackall 100 last year with a survey happening, and they signed a lot of people up there because there's 900 competitors at Blackall now. So
wow, okay, that would be amazing. Yeah, I don't know how they go with. Does that come within the athletics space, or how does it come in as a separate sport? I guess that's the question, but I don't know.
What's more Aussie than a cross country?
But the other one on that, if you think about it, is it also would show off beautifully, and it would work. You know, it would show off the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast as a destination to the world. Like it actually, from you think about it from a, I'm not suggesting the Olympics is purely a marketing exercise, but it would have that side effect of showing off a wonderful part of Queensland to the world. So yeah, that would be amazing. I don't think I've got it in me to train for that, but I think I'll be happy to be a spectator, mate. So yeah, if you've got some more info, Andrew, on it, if you could let me know, or I can contact the Trail Running Association.
Yeah, I'll see what I can find.
Yeah,
I do the 21, Dom. You can do the 21, surely, if I can.
Not these days, mate. Not with these knees. I told you about the career as a hulking front rower. That's destroyed the knees, mate. All right. Thanks for those comments. That's great. On a different topic, it's another survey, but WorkSafe Queensland, they've got a survey out about quad bike safety right now. So it's a confidential survey. They flagged that quad bike users are overrepresented in serious injury statistics, and more than 50 Queenslanders have been killed using quad bikes since 2011. So WorkSafe is seeking to better understand behaviours and beliefs of people who own or use quad bikes for work, recreation, or any other purpose. And I sort of thought about this from a recreation point of view, but also thought, well, there's probably more than a few outdoor operators who have quad bikes or side-by-side vehicles on their properties as well. And so it is worth maybe having a look at this survey. There have been changes to quad bike regulations in recent times with the rollover protection and that sort of thing. And they've also done some promotions about quad bike safety, but it's worth having a look at. I don't have a quad bike, but I do know people who do. And, you know, I've visited properties where they say, I'll jump on the quad if you want to, you know, we'll go and ride down to the back paddock or whatever. It's something to think about in relation to the safety, and that, you know, that statistic of 50 Queenslanders killed since 2011, that's pretty scary. So just wanted to flag that one as well. There's a story on our website about it, which takes you through to the WorkSafe survey as well. The 2023 National Volunteering Conference, it's next week. In-person tickets sold out a while back, but there's still online tickets available. And you can, if you're an online delegate, you can jump in and out of sessions. So just wanted to flag this one. It, according to Volunteering Australia, and they probably would say this, but I think it's true on this, in this case, this is Australia's leading event on the volunteering calendar. And it's really a gathering for non-profit leaders, volunteer management professionals, government and corporate reps, academics and researchers, and volunteers to come together to address emerging issues. So I think that they're going to present some research in volunteering, but also what it means for the future. And I think they're also going to release the national strategy for volunteering, which we talked about last year. There was some information about it last year. I think that's going to be launched at the conference. So that's next week online, as well as it face-to-face in Canberra. But yeah, 13th and 14th of Feb. So I just wanted to flag that one. I think the online tickets are $250 a person, so it's not cheap, but I think it's a good opportunity to attend if you're so inclined. All right. On my reminders, first at the top was Inside the Outhouse. Dave, did you want to give us a 2023 information on the outhouse? Are you with us, mate? Looks like he's frozen. All right, I'll keep on going. I got a little reminder there about our resources, our websites, our e-bulletins. I talked earlier about the one that Mark sent out about the domestic commercial vessel changes, but also our other bulletins, our e-newsers, and our social media channels. Feel free to follow us and comment and engage in that way. Those surveys, the vessel safety, the Brisbane 2032 legacy, and also quad bike safety. But also importantly for our organisation, the Outdoors Queensland Forum and AGM that's going to be on the 15th of March. We do need you to complete the forms if you're a member. So please fill out those forms. It's an important part of the process so that we have a quorum and have the right nominees and nominations done properly. Dave, you're back with us? Just wondering if you wanted to give us an outhouse update, mate. You're just on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Dom, and hi, everybody. Just a quick update. Pete's actually currently over in Canada skiing, so not a lot of outhouse detail, but I've got a couple of PD opportunities through our connections internationally. Next week, the Leahy Associates are running their annual conference. Links in the chat now. It's a facilitators and trainers conference, and they're offering a virtual version of it. It's quite pricey. It's over $500 Australian, but it's a conference that's been around since the mid-80s and has evolved to become something that's actually quite valuable towards facilitating. And they have a very unique open forum style of program design for the conference itself. So if you've got some time, I think it's from 2 a.m. next Thursday morning through to the weekend. I'm going to attend. I have a connection there. It gets me a bit of a discount, and I'll be able to report back next month. And the other conference and the other connection, I guess, from the Outhouse side is the AEE, so the Association of Experiential Education Asia Pacific Regional Conference, which hit the Facebook page of Outdoors Queensland about a week or so ago. Links again in the chat there. That's a little bit further afield, but worth planning for. It's going to be in Singapore, face-to-face, 13th to the 15th of June. And it's the first attempt in a long time to actually have an Asia Pacific influence on the Association of Experiential Education group, which is about 1,000 people attended the last conference, either virtually or in person in North Carolina. So they're going to have one in Singapore. So I'm going to attend. Call for presentations close at the end of this month, though. So if you're looking to go over and present to make your time over there worthwhile, definitely it's going to be very academically focused. I think it's been hosted by a local university in Singapore that have a very large outdoor ed program. There's a lot going on in outdoor ed in that space, in that outdoor education, especially around ropes courses. Recently, there's some strategic planning around staffing, and as a result of a critical incident that occurred about 2 years ago, sort of during the COVID period. But definitely happening. We will be back with some Outhouse content, hopefully in March. So that's okay. all for me, Bob.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for the update, and look forward to hearing more. Yeah, we'll certainly keep promoting. And yeah, the Singapore conference, it looks interesting. It's yeah. So, and we promoted the call for presentations as well. So yeah, that looks really good.
Our colleague from WA, name escapes me, used to be heading up the WA Outdoors organisation.
Jamie Bennett. Yep. Lost you, mate. Yeah, it's Jamie Bennett from Outdoor, who used to be the executive officer at Outdoors WA. He's doing a lot of work on it as well, I think was what Dave was going to say. I've lost him. ICF conference in Spain, Andrew. Ay caramba. I think that's Mexico, isn't it? Anyway, that sounds awesome, mate. Wow.
I was there anyway, so.
Right. Yeah. Just your normal trip to Spain for the year. Yeah. Wow, that's a great opportunity. Look, thanks everyone for coming today. I think we'll finish up there. It's a little bit early, but I'm happy to give you all 10 minutes back. The next coffee and conversation is going to be from 11 o'clock on the first Friday of March. Then we've got to make a decision about what's happening with April, because the first Friday in April is Good Friday. So we might shift that one to maybe the 14th of April. So we'll confirm that one in March. A big thanks to everyone for joining us today. Thanks for your contributions. I should have said, has anyone else got anything else we wanted to deal with? All good? Cool. Sorry, I went rolling into my spiel. Yeah, thanks again for everyone for joining us. Thanks to Mark for co-hosting. A big thanks to all the other Outdoors Queensland staff and also the members and volunteers who contribute to what we do. So we'll sign off there. Be kind to the planet, be kind to other people, and importantly, be kind to yourself. Thanks very much.